Hey everyone, it's Zahara Stars with Illum Astrology doing another transit video on Saturn's transits. And this one I'm going to be talking about Saturn's transit through the 5th house. For those of you that are Libra rising or Libra, when Saturn moves into the sign of Aquarius, which occupies your guys' 5th house according to whole sign astrology, in March of 2020, it's going to first move into Aquarius and hit your 5th house before it retrogrades back into your 4th house. And then it goes back officially in January 1st of 2021 back into the sign of Aquarius, occupying your 5th house. So this video will be for you guys, but also for anybody that's going to be experiencing Saturn's transit through the 5th house. So Saturn is the planet of karma and cause and effect, along with justice. He rules over convention, tradition, doing the right thing, law and order, government, solid structures. He presents restrictions, blockages, and limitations in order to refine us, perfect us, and make us better people, more grown up and mature. He rules over maturity, older people. So what happens typically when Saturn transits a house is that he gives us a new lens to put on. And this lens typically strips away the veil of illusions. And Saturn's transits can give us a real keen eye for imperfections, because Saturn's about perfection, refinement, making things better, improving them. And the way that he does that is he shows us the weakest links, the ugly side of things, the faults, disappointments, things like that. Sometimes Saturn can actually turn the lens on ourselves and make us internalize and reflect on our part in the outcomes of things and situations in our lives. So Saturn has a very serious feel to him. He rules over the sign of Capricorn. He rules the 10th house, which is the house of the father in astrology. So he is the stern, strict father in astrology, where he doesn't give out handouts. He makes you work really hard for whatever it is whatever house he's transiting for you to achieve your goals. He can present restrictions, blockages, and limitations as well. And being the planet of karma, you can look to see karma playing out in that house in which he transits. So in the 5th house is all about our self-expression, our creative self-expression. It's the house of Leo. It's ruled by the sun, which typically is an energetic, happy-go-lucky, fun house. It also rules over our love interests, usually like our flings or our new first loves, along with speculation, gambling, leisure, fun, play, creative self-expression like in the arts. A lot of actors have planets in the 5th house. The 5th house is definitely a self-expression house. So when Saturn's seriousness hits this house, you're looking at the house of fun through a very serious lens, okay, of maturity, refinement, perfection, criticism, all of these things. So when it comes to your love life, you suddenly are interested in more refined, serious Saturn type of personalities, or you find yourself attracting those types of people, or those people tend to come into your life. You'll end up having more serious love affairs or flings, or when you get out and you meet somebody, you're gonna be looking and finding yourself attracted to these qualities, okay, because you're looking through Saturn's lens, where it's about what can this person provide for you? Is this a serious long-term possibility? When it comes to creative self-expression, you can be more critiquing of yourself. You suddenly become very aware of yourself and how you present yourself to the world, how you come across to others. You can refine and perfect your skills if you are in the arts, if you are working on a creative project, because you're going to take a more serious look at that particular project or whatever area and want to perfect it and refine it. But you have to be careful about being too critical of it, because Saturn is about perfection, right? So this is some high standards to live up to. So we can be super critical of the projects we're working on, how we appear to others, who we let into our lives. Now, being restrictions and limitations and blockages, that can come out in your creative projects. You can feel restricted, blocked, like you're not really quite sure of how to come out or put it out. And over time, Saturn will work with you and you'll become more confident in what it is you've been working on after you edit it, fix it, repair it, whatever type of, work that has to be put into it. When you start to see it for what it really is, you can see what's wrong with it and better it. Now, if you have children, Saturn's transit here can bring about issues with your children. Now, the issues don't necessarily have to be issues. They could just be that your children may be going through difficulties in school or having, a rebellious attitude or whatever it is that they're calling out for. It's because Saturn wants you to develop a more solid plan for your children or with your children, to develop a closer relationship with them, to parent them better, to offer them the advice, the support that they need. That can come up because it is the house of children also. You could also consider having children. Children become a serious concern of yours. Like if you don't have any children, you can start saying, you know what, I think I want to have children. You can end up getting pregnant. Now, the reverse can also happen, to where you can be trying to have a child and you could be restricted during this time period. And typically, if that's the case, Saturn wants you to focus on some other area in your life. Maybe you have other children that need your care, or maybe you have other things that need to be done. Maybe you're working on a creative project and your work needs to be put in there. Whatever the reason is, it's karma, it's law and order, it's Saturn's way of either blocking, restricting, or perfecting, refining. And it can be either way. Also, being the planet of karma, it can bring about situations that are karmic for you in order for you to learn lessons. Like if you weren't taking your children seriously, or your flings, or your love affair seriously, you can be blocked and restricted from meeting somebody. It's a possibility. I've seen it happen where people are single for the time period that Saturn's transiting their fifth house of love, or love, romance, children, creative self-expression, leisure, fun, all that stuff. Now, because Saturn is serious and it's in the house of fun, it's not exactly a fun time, but it can be a very productive time where you see things. You value your fun and your creative times more. Like you're more particular about how you have your fun. You're not reckless about it. You're not, if you're younger and you're out partying and drinking with a lot of friends, you may withdraw a little bit from doing that and start saying you want to do more, go travel, or go join, start tennis, or go do some sport, because it's also about sports. You could perfect and refine your skills in sports as well, because you're going to be more critical of how you go about doing these things. You're going to want to learn how to perfect your style, perfect your whatever it is related to this house. And Saturn really does have a very serious energy to it. You can't deny it. Once Saturn comes into a house, you feel it. It's very like you become a little more introspective, more aware of yourself, a lot more aware of yourself, a lot more aware of your behavior, of how you've been, expressing yourself to the outer world. You become very conscious, aware of that. Your love relationships and interests become more serious. You look for higher quality and caliber, because Saturn's about refinement and perfection too. So and also about tradition and convention, which is interesting because you could pick a more conventional, traditional Saturn type person. Now, if it comes out in the restrictions and the blockages way, then you can meet a partner that doesn't have a whole lot of time to spend with you, so that way you're able to spend more time on your creative projects, or on refining and perfecting your creative self-expression, working with your children, or whatever it is that needs to be focused on rather than that area. You can find that you can meet Saturn type partners that are very serious and don't have a lot of time or don't like to be frivolous with their time. But you can start a long-term relationship, a long-term commitment relationship that you're going to take very seriously, and the other person will as well. But really what happens is you become very aware of your time and your self-expression and your love affairs and your relationship with your children. And these tests and trials and things that could present themselves during this time period are there to make you put the time and effort into bettering these areas in your life, because Saturn really ultimately is the great teacher about how to be responsible, be mature, think about cause and effect. What you do comes back to you. He's about justice, so justice can come to you in situations in these areas as well. He's about refinement of character, of morals, of your value that you put on yourself, and the value that you put towards put out to the world, because it's of creative self-expression. So overall, it's a very serious time with Saturn. Saturn's no joker. Definitely not a joker. He's very serious. He's very about building solid foundations in the house that he transits. So you're going to be taking a serious look at fun matters and about your creative ways of doing things, and with your relationships with your children and with your love interests and all these areas, you're going to take a lot more serious. Some people find it to be a time where they feel a little alienation crisis in the beginning, because you're really starting to look at yourself and look at everything with Saturn's critical lens. But you really feel a sense of responsibility to areas in this life. Your work projects become very serious and you're responsible and you want to follow through on them. And your creative ideas, you can refine them, perfect them, and put them out there. In your relationships with your children, you build a closer relationship, become a better parent, or if that applies. You know, you want to put in the effort into making things better, because Saturn is about solid foundations and structures, and he takes a very serious approach to these matters. So Saturn's transit it transits each house approximately 2.5 years. I find that it happens in waves, kind of like 3 waves. When it first comes in, you kind of feel the energy, and you start to know kind of what needs to be fixed, what needs to be improved. You start to take a good hard look at things. And then when it turns retrograde, whatever needs to be fixed can blow up, or issues can come about in that area, or your focus becomes more focused on that area. So that way you can improve them. And then when it goes direct, you start seeing the results of what it is that you started working on or putting together, whether it's the relationships area, whether it's how you express yourself to the outside world, no matter what it is. And at the end of the transit, that's when you get the gift of Saturn. And that's when you get to see, like, wow, how much that particular area of your life improved. Because Saturn is, when he transits a house, there is a difference. There's a big noticeable difference of change and betterment that occurs. So I think that just about covers it. I hope you guys found this helpful. I'm sure I probably left something out. I've been doing these kind of back to back and on and off, but I'm going to be putting out a lot more, and if I forget anything about this, maybe I'll do a second part. But otherwise, I hope you guys found this helpful. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like your own personal reading about your own specific chart, because there's multiple transits happening for everybody all the time, you can visit my site at www.illumastrology.com. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sending you guys all the best. Until next time.